Brother Barry, are you there? Flipping that forth. Now I can take her question and show it here. So the Petal Rosaries asked, wondering if you could tell us how all this got started. Did you wake up one day and say, I think I'll build a boat?
No, and it's surprising because we don't get that question a lot, and I think people just assume we're crazy. But you kind of have to go back to the beginning of the beginning when we had our very first boat, which was KB1.
20 foot.
20-foot cruiser. You could sort of sleep overnight. The seats folded down if you wanted to, not very comfortable, had a little porta potty. And we wanted something that we could do more with and go on vacations with. And that's called footitis. As soon as you get one boat, you want one that's bigger. So we got KB2, which was 27 feet?
25.
25 feet. Called it KB2, Naughty Boys 2. And, of course, footitis. We wanted something bigger. To be honest, Rick wanted something where he could stand up in the head, which was sort of the driving factor. And I don't know exactly where we went from looking at other boats to, I've always wanted to build my own boat sort of deal. Contrary to what Rick says, I was not drunk when I came on board the project. I think at some point he said, it's always been my dream to build my own boat. And I said, okay. And off we went. We are going to do a video probably next week that is before the beginning of the build to give you an idea of some of the things we went through before we actually began to build the boat. So deciding on the project was one thing, and then it's like going down this big rabbit hole. And I don't think either one of us understood exactly what we were getting into. It was like, yeah, this sounds like a great idea. And then I think Rick, more so than me, has had more moments like, what the hell did I get myself into? But it is a dream coming true. I'm completely on board. First few years, there wasn't much I could help with. There was a lot of dust generated by sanding, which me and dust, for a number of reasons, don't get along. Now I'm able, I did a lot in the very early stages when we first laid the keel and we were putting the sides on the boat. And then I stepped back and he sanded for 2-3 seasons straight. That's all he did. So now we're back at things that I can help with. I can help laying fiberglass, and I can wet it out and hand it to him, and he can put it where it needs to be, which we did some of last year in a job that we thought was going to take a couple of hours. We had it knocked off in a half an hour. So this year I'll be far more involved in the build. I am doing the interior cushions and padding and all of that. Once we get to that stage, that's still a ways off. But in the meantime, I'll start being more involved with the build.
Okay, kind of got ahead of ourselves. My name's Rick. This is my wife, Lori, and this is our first live stream. So we're just learning the software and all the ropes and all that other stuff, so bear with us. I'd like to thank you for taking your time to spend it with us on this nice Sunday afternoon. I know we've got Barry from Bonnie, Scotland, Dunbar, actually, the hardest working fisherman in Dunbar, so I've been told. And we've got my friend Erica from Ottawa. Erica is one of our patrons too. So if anybody else is online, if you'd like to just type a comment and we'll, like sort of take a head count, see who's here, where they're from kind of thing, that'd be great. And then I think what we're going to do is we're going to go to a Q&A, so you can ask us anything about the project. Lori's already give you the rundown on how that started. And, we'll try and fill you in, and yeah, we'll start there. So anybody got questions, let us know where you're from, what your interests are in building boats, etc., and we'll see how it goes. Anybody? Anybody? Is there anybody out there? No. Let's see, insanity.
How many years have we been doing this?
We cut the first part out. Actually, our friend Andrew did in, I think it was May or June of 2011. But as you'll see coming up in the next week, we're going to go through one of our presentations, which will become a video of what we actually had to do before we got started building the boat. So yeah, it was about 2011 when the first part got cut.
But the planning and parts accumulation started probably 4 years before that. Yeah. What's the plans once the boat is finished? We're leaving. We're going somewhere, anywhere. There is a canal system down our way called the Rideau Canal. And we spent a lot of time on the Rideau with our previous boat. And it's a series of locks. I don't know how many miles it covers, but that's likely to be our maiden voyage, is a trip up the Rideau. They're waters we know well. Short trips each day before we tie up and do some exploring, which would be a good way to run our sea trials. Test her legs, see how well she does. I don't know that we have anything solidly planned, but that's my guess as to what we'll do.
Yeah, the boat has been built with that in mind. The design came from a gentleman by the name of Jacques Mertens. He's a Belgian, and the design was made to fit in most of the European canals, except for the very narrow boat canals in the UK. But so it's perfectly suited for inland waterways, canals, small lakes, etc. And there are a lot of them here, not just the Rideau, the Ottawa River, Champlain Canal, the Erie Canal, the Trent Severn Canal. So we can actually completely circumnavigate the eastern United States from the Mississippi east up the eastern seaboard and back home if we wanted to. That's called the Great Loop. And once we're in Florida, we certainly have the range and the endurance with the tanks and the fuel capacity, water, waste, etc., to take us to the Bahamas if we wanted to. And I think one of my dreams would be to transport the boat to the West Coast and spend a few years in the waters of British Columbia and maybe southern Alaska, northern Washington State. I think there's so much to see out there. I think that would be fun. The other dream would be to have it shipped across the big pond so we can go visit Barry and Lindsay in Scotland. There's Roscoe. So Ross is, hey Ross, sorry to hear about your little trailer sailor, buddy. They'll fix it. I know you know how. The range with 116 US gallons, I have to, the engine is so old, there was no metric. We can carry 116 gallons of diesel. The Yanmar 4GH TE will burn approximately I got to do the math in my head here because I have it in liters. It's about a liter a kilometer. So, anyways, it works out to roughly about 700 nautical miles. And yeah, 116 gallons of diesel. There's 165 gallons of fresh water, and there's a 30-gallon black water tank and a 30-gallon gray water tank. It really is. I mean, I ordered 50 US gallon tanks, and when we got home and opened the boxes, we found out they were 58 gallons. So they just fit under the deck panels. But if that causes us any problems in the future, I don't know. Good question. I'd like to, two of our special guests are Ross from Life on the Hulls, and I'd like to show you a picture. It's the banner for Ross's YouTube channel, and you can visit him, and I'll include a link in the description for you to do that. And the other one is Barry. And Barry's a lobster fisherman in Scotland. And although he didn't build his boat,
Yes, he did.
he built out his boat. He bought the hull and built it out. And the guy does amazing work. He's really, I was just captivated the whole time he was building it. Barry and I have built up sort of a refresher along the way.
Question, do you have to go through any official channels once you're finished and on the water, like safety or stability, etc.?
That depends on, there are two ways to register and license a boat in Canada. Registration is federal. There's a federal register maintained by Transport Canada, and that ensures that all of the proper paperwork, standards, insurance, engineering requirements, firefighting requirements, everything are on board for commercial ships. Now, recreational yachts can register as well, and it actually gives you in your hand a set of papers that say, I own this boat. So no matter where you go in the world, that's recognized by most governments. Now, the other way to do it is to license it provincially. And when you do that, you get a little slip of paper that big that says, this guy owns this boat, and you get a bunch of numbers that go across your bow. And when you do that, you can put any hailing port on the back of your bow. When you federally register, it has to be registered at the Transport Canada port and through a ship safety bureau. We can go either way. It's not expensive to register, and it's not really expensive to license either. But I think I would like to register our vessel so we actually have proper papers, so when we leave the country, we can prove definitively that we own the vessel and it's registered in Canada. To do that, we will have to meet, all we need is an insurance survey by a marine survey, so we can have insurance, because you need that wherever you go, if you want to go to a harbor or port or whatever. And that's the two very basic systems. So can I answer it? Why are you getting embarrassed, Ross?
That's Barry.
Or no, that's Barry. Barry said that. Why are you embarrassed, Barry?
Yeah, you did an amazing job on that boat. We look forward to your videos every week.
Oh, I forgot.
Yes. What other questions can we answer?
Come on, somebody's going to ask me, when is the boat going in the water? Somebody's going to ask that question. I've been practicing my response all morning. Any official mascots? Just stuffed mascots. No living four-legged furry ones.
Although we did have 2 cats that we took on our last boat on our trips. That was back when we only had 2. Now we have a herd, so. Okay, somebody said, Ross asked, when are you launching? And then Barry, same thing.
So I know I'm not going to beat Barry into the water, but I might beat Ross into the water if I work really, really hard. Because Ross is one of the hardest working devils. For those who don't know, Ross and his wife live down in Jervis Bay in Australia. I think it's an hour and a half north of Sydney, Ross. And it's summer down there for them, so he's out there sweating it out in 40 plus degrees Celsius weather and sanding and grinding away and customizing and all that other stuff. So we really enjoy watching that poor bugger suffer.
Although last year, Rick actually got everything done on his to-do list and then some, which was the first season ever he's met that. And we're really hoping this year will be the same. I think it's a lot easier now that there's more structure because the boat is starting to look like a boat. I think when you're sanding the hull year after year after year, you can't think of it as a boat. Now we have walls up and windows will be going in this year with some luck. And it's just starting to look a whole lot more like a boat. And that is really encouraging, and it tends to spur on some of the activity. So if he meets his to-do list this year and then a little bit more, that will hopefully shorten the amount of time before we're on the water, hopefully.
So Ross said, insurance is an issue in your build. I actually don't have any insurance on the boat. I have insurance on the shed and its contents. It's horrendously expensive to get boat construction insurance for an amateur home-built boat. And that would have really made it uneconomical for us to even consider that. So we're at risk. I've got fire extinguishers all over the places and garden hose, and that's all I can do. Put my faith in a higher power and hope he doesn't hit me with lightning. Oops, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Ross, I didn't mean to do that. But yeah, now once the boat is complete, be surveyed for insurance purposes and have to comply with applicable standards, and it's essentially the same standards in Canada as the US uses, the ABYC standards. So we also have in Canada the small vessel construction standards, which comes from Transport Canada.
Okay, what color is the boat going to be?
That's very we're looking at a blue that's very close to the color of the hat for the hull, maybe a little darker. That decision was made when we bought a set of seats that had blue inlay. So you kind of want to stick with the theme. But if it was up to me, it would be Battleship Gray, top sides, bottom sides, you name it, inside out, Battleship Gray.
No.
Laurie says no. I've been overruled.
Another question is, what does the name of the boat mean? Sago.
It's spelled KON, and that's an anglicized version of a Mohawk words, Sago. And Sago is a colloquial greeting amongst the Iroquois people. And it means hello or greetings. And we live in a small village in eastern Ontario called Iroquois, and that used to be on the sign when you entered into town, so it's always stuck in my head. I grew up and went to school with some Mohawk people off the reserve near here, and gained an appreciation for them and their work ethics and their approach to life and all that other stuff. And so we adopted that as the name.
There was another question as to whether I'll do all the stitching and sewing. Probably. Rick has some ideas about the canvas. That might mean I'm co-working with somebody. We're not 100% sure about what's going to happen with the canvas. I've already bought it. And I certainly have the equipment to do it. There's a few questions about that, let's say, but in terms of the interior stuff, yeah, I've had all that material for years. And actually I was thinking this year I might start making cushions just to do it. If Rick is doing something on the boat that I can't do or can't help with, then I might turn to doing some of the interior stuff, just to get it done. But we'll see. That some of that is still up in the air.
Hey, Ross said, "Oh, this is a compliment, not a question. Progress to the build last year was amazing. Seeing the cabin and windows must have been so rewarding. Anytime you stick a part on the boat, you start to see it come to form and come to shape. You start to get a feel for the size. Because when you're starting with a bare hull and you first step inside, it looks huge, right? And then as you did with your boat, and you started to plug in all the modules here and there, and the interior spaces got a little tighter, the boat seems to get smaller. And actually, when you first put it in the water, it's going to get a lot smaller looking. So anyways, it was rewarding. We feel better. Laurie and I both lost a lot of weight, so the energy's come back. There's still the same old aches and pains and stuff, but other than that, we did pretty good, and we hope to do a lot better this year.
So what made us decide on the YouTube journey? I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I have no idea how that even started.
I started putting videos about the boats around 2011. I don't know why. I just did it. They weren't very good. They weren't edited. They were just rough footage that come off of my phone or a GoPro. And then in 2016, my grandson Connor was born, and I stepped it up a little more. Not a whole lot of production value, but I kind of wanted him to be able to see somewhere down the road how crazy his grandfather was, decided to build a boat in his backyard. So it's just probably by the time we're gone, it's the only thing he's ever going to inherit from me is a broken down old boat. So.
Now, as far as the boat goes, every year our house gets something done to it. Back porch was last year. The front porch was a few years back. Every year we do something.
Catio.
And I know from that Rick overbuilds everything. So I have no qualms whatsoever about stepping onto something that's floating in a bunch of water that he's built. Because as far as I'm concerned, he overbuilds. He's making it a lot stronger than even the plans call for in terms of the fiberglass and the stuff used, particularly on the bow. So just from seeing how he built the porch, I swear a hurricane could come through here, or a tornado, and the whole house would be gone except the front porch and probably the back deck now. So, yeah, it's very well built.
Well, the shed has lasted 15 years. It's been recovered 4 or 5 times, but and SV Mistress, that fellow's name is Bruce.
Can the boat be registered before it is launched? Ross is asking.
Yeah, the boat can be registered with Transport Canada at any time. When that happens, there's a number of interim inspections are required, and I have to pay for those, and they're expensive. But if I wait till just before we launch, I can combine the insurance and the Transport Canada inspections in one at a fraction of the cost. So I think we're going to wait. It's still going to end up costing $2,500 to $3,000 to do that.
But if anything, would you do differently? Drink more.
Drink more. Goof off less. Play the casinos, try to win enough money to buy a boat.
I think in the big scheme of things, there isn't a whole lot we would do differently.
No, I've actually enjoyed it. We got off to a really good start, and then I don't know what happened. There was health issues, gained a lot of weight, got hurt, at least one concussion, fell down, broke my knee, tore up my leg. Lori's had issues with her back and stuff like that, and that set us back for a good long time. And it was last year we decided to make some changes, and that helped. And things started to pick up. So to do things differently, no, I think I've actually enjoyed it. Like, this is something I wanted to do since I was a little kid. So I wouldn't have gotten started if I knew I wasn't going to enjoy it. I love tinkering with stuff. I love learning new stuff. And starting to use this software and a new video editing software I have. I'm learning new stuff about that every day. So I think the boat project and the YouTube stuff is going to maybe bring it all together. I'm determined to make better videos and get more subscribers and more views and stuff like that. So I wanted to talk a bit about one of the other questions we get asked all the time is, how much have you spent on the boat? And this is a summary from a very large Excel type spreadsheet that I have. And I started just gathering dollar amounts way back when, even before we started to build the boat, on everything that I purchased. And it was all rolled up into these categories. And at the time, the Canadian and the US dollars were basically on par. So I didn't separate out which were Canadian and which were American, and tried to had to figure out some sort of formula to take into account taxes, brokerage, shipping, etc. So this is showing right now our total so far is about $98,690 Canadian, $78,950 US. And that's using the exchange rate of $1.25 between the two currencies. Now that rate has changed. It's probably much different. So these are overinflated numbers. I guess realistically, where we are right now is at about $60,000 into our project. Friend of ours owns a 70-year-old timber boat, Columbia 3 in BC, and he has been experienced in bureaucracy with regard to fire and safety regulations as a registered charter boat. While commercial boats are put under a tremendous amount of scrutiny in Canada by Transport Canada for safety standards, and there was sort of a Wild West charter boat explosion in the 1980s and early 90s, and there were a number of very traumatic accidents involving these charter boats. So the federal government and Transport Canada were forced to step up there, increase their regulations, increase their inspections, and increase their insurance requirements, etc. And they're relatively known in Canada for not letting things slip by. They're very strict and by the book, and I think that has proven to have improved things in this country. And boats that are built I think it's 1959, have a very, very, very hard time getting insurance. Doesn't matter what they're built of, ferro cement, timber. Even back then, they were pretty stringent. Let's take this one off. Are the U.S. standards as stringent? I believe so. Canadians and Americans, with regards to standards for marine vessel construction in all categories, whether it's electrical or propulsion equipment or tankage or firefighting, are virtually identical. Transport Canada small vessel construction standards is essentially identical to the US ABUIC standards, and quite often in the Canadian version it references the American standard. So now there's a construction standard for commercial vessels, small commercial vessels and larger vessels, and I have not seen those. So for someone who's putting a boat into charter, you would have to consult with a marine surveyor, and they're available at pretty much any port in Canada. I don't know if they're harder on timber boats. I mean, out west, there's a lot of wooden boats. Like if you go down in Washington State, like Port Townsend Marine or something like that, where Leo's building his rebuilding Tally Ho, there are some massive old wooden boats there, and I would imagine a lot of those are charter or private yachts or even small commercial ventures that they seem to still function. You're probably surveying boats like that. There are different disciplines within surveyors. There are hull surveyors, there's propulsion and machinery surveyors, there's fire equipment and safety. So it wouldn't be necessarily one surveyor.
No, I swear alcohol had no bearing whatsoever on my decision making. Temporary insanity, maybe, but it wasn't alcohol driven.
No, we were sitting on our boat in the Rideau Canal, and I said, the next time we come through the Rideau, we'll be on a boat we built.
Yes.
And I think she was drinking Dr. Pepper and spiced rum.
Well, when we're on the boat, we have usually one drink when we tie up, and that's when it's either after dinner or as I'm making dinner. So I know I wasn't drunk. There was one time when a friend of ours at the marina came with a 26-ouncer of Appleton rum and a big thing of ginger ale, and we were all pretty happy by the end of that night. But no, I went into this eyes wide open, but like I said, I don't think either one of us really knew what it meant. Like, sure, that sounds like a great idea. Holy crap. So,
I had
Yeah.
I had studied plans for various types of boats before we picked this one. And I grew up in Prescott, Ontario, just down the street, and across from me was a kid named John Simpson. Well, John ended up being a naval architect in Vancouver, and I had messaged him one day when I was at work, and he said, "Oh yeah, we had a good little exchange." And then I mentioned I was thinking of building a boat, and he says, "I got the boat for you." And he sent me plans for a 50-foot offshore expedition yacht built in steel or aluminum. So I have the planning drawings for that one. Another boat I looked at was called the Aurora 40 from Chesapeake Marine Design, and it was a plywood boat, could be bought as a kit. It was 40 feet long. I would have liked to have done that, but it's too big. And then I came across this design from a company called Bato.com out of Vero Beach, Florida, for a 28-foot trailer trawler, and looked at that, watched a few of them being put together, documented on their website, and I said, I can do that. So that's the one we chose.
What happened to the Boston Whaler?
What happened to the Boston Whaler?
Yeah, we still have it. I think. Yeah.
Who asked that?
Ross, bottom one. Bottom.
At the bottom. I wake every morning at 2 a.m. and think, what was I thinking with you all the way? What happened to the Boston Whaler? Oh, yeah, we still have it. It's in our friend's barn. I just bit off more than I could chew right now, so I needed to reassess my priorities and focus on getting the big boat done before I tackle that. So another spreadsheet I put together was the things that we want to get done this year and how much we're looking at having to invest in purchasing materials. And the first two items are for the main cabin roof. I need 5 sheets of 12 mil marine plywood, plus about 6 gallons of epoxy. And then I've got to look at my electrical system install. Our electrical system install. I was just every time I watch Ross and his son putting his electrical in, I'm drooling over the Victron equipment. I said, "Oh my God, that's what I want." And then I started to price it out, and I just can't afford it. I can't justify the cost in Canada. The equipment's expensive, wire's expensive, blah blah blah. So my next best choice is Renogy equipment, and I've used some Renogy equipment on our RV, and it works fine. I can get all the equipment I need with the batteries from Renogy for about a third of what I would pay for Victron. So as much as it would be nice to have, it's just not in the books right now. And then the next big item are the windows and windscreens and side cabin windows and all that. And those are going to cost us a fair chunk of change in US dollars, probably well north of $8,000 by the time we get them back. So that's what we're looking at this year. So yeah, take that one off there. So that's pretty much it, what we had planned. I don't know how long we've been going here. Almost an hour. I don't want to keep us any longer than that. Gary's got lobster to catch, and Ross got a boat to build, and everybody else is, I don't want to waste your time. So we hopefully will do a live stream at least once a month like this, so we can bring people up to date, or try to draw some more people into the channel, get some more subscribers and more watch hours, etc. And I'm actually thinking of sticking a camera up in the boat, so when I'm working, all you people that just love to watch me sand back and forth can get your jollies from watching me sand the boat. So, and that can go live anytime.
So if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. That would help us a lot. And bring a friend. It's always good to have more subscribers. Also, with the added expenses this year, we have decided to join Patreon and ask our subscribers if they're willing to hop on board and join us on Patreon. Rick can explain a little bit more of that.
Patreon is a way for content creators, whether it's YouTube or other social media or arts, custom services, to obtain support for their projects. And Patreons join a campaign and they contribute funds per contribution or per month or whatever. And Ross is on Patreon, I believe Barry is, and pretty much every other boat builder I know. So Riot originally intended to be able to build this boat completely out of pocket, which means I pay for the stuff as I go. And that's the realities of the economy right now, and the hyperinflated costs of the materials that we have to buy this year. It's going to be really tight. So plus we're getting screwed over by the tax man again, so that's not fun. And so if Erica is one of our Patreons, and we have one more, Captain Donnie. He was building his own diesel duck. He's abandoned that project, but he decided to support us. So thank you very much, you guys. We appreciate it. Send Barry a message on the side. Yeah, thanks, Barry. It was fun. I mean, we had no idea what we were doing. We did a couple of tests. I think this camera is going to get changed. I have another Nikon, and we'll see how it goes.
Well, thank everybody for your time and visiting with us today and taking part in this. It's been great. I look forward to doing more of these in the future.
We may even introduce a cat or two, or 5 or 8.
No.
5. So, yeah, one of the other things that we can do with this live streaming software is we can invite, if we wanted to bring Ross and Janet in, they can come in and, be in a split window beside us, and we can have a little one-on-one chat. And same with Barry and Lindsay, and maybe the brew peg crew would come and join us for a little chat. And I know there's been a few other boat builders have done that before. Doug Jackson did it when they were building the Seeker. They had a little thing called The Mind of a Boat Builder, and he basically interviewed some of the other guys. And I think Ross and Bruce on building SV Mistress, they did it. So maybe we'll try and continue that. That's a wintertime thing. So there you have it. Grace is looking forward to the next one. Yeah, we want to see cats.
Well, we have our own pirate cat, so Bart will have to make an introduction or be introduced in the next video.
Yes, sailor joke for you. Thanks, Erica. I appreciate you looking in. That was fun. And don't worry about Sylvia, but Bob's got lots of money. Tell him he needs to come in and drop a wad of cash in her pocket. So it's funny. There you go. So I guess we're going to cut it off here now. We're just what did it say? Coming up on exactly 1 hour. So again, thank you everybody. We enjoyed it. We hope you stay safe and well and warm and dry wherever you are. And in about 6 weeks, we should be getting back to serious boat building stuff around here. So take care. Peace.
Thank you.
Peace. See you. Bye-bye.